Hi, today I'm going to discuss the Talking Jigsaw Puzzle. I first learned about this puzzle on the internet about 6 years ago, and I bought my own copy of The Office Building off eBay. These were released from 1991 through 1995 and have long been out of print. They were originally published by Buffalo Games, but are extremely hard to find now. There are 6 of them in the series: The Office Building, the Fitness Center, the Beach, the Hospital, the High School, and City Hall. Actually, I only own 5 of these. I was never able to find a copy of the Fitness Center for purchase, so this copy is borrowed from my friend Karen. So why are these old puzzles still so sought after? Here's what the box says. Here's how it works. This puzzle talks through the conversations of the characters printed on each piece. First, assemble the interchangeable windows, then follow the clues to complete the puzzle. Any genius can do it. Millions of combinations, one correct solution. So let's put together the Fitness Center and see for ourselves how it works. So I'm starting out with my usual dump and flip. But as you know, every single piece in this puzzle is exactly the same shape, so every piece fits with every other piece. So I decided to sort out the edges and tackle the more difficult intersections first. Right off, I noticed that there were a lot of pieces that had green mats on them. I pulled those all out, and by comparing the visible clothing of the person on each mat, I managed to match up all the mat pieces. Again, because there is no shape information in any of these pieces, image information is the only thing I can go by. So once the exercise mats were all complete, I moved them out of the way and started assembling exercise machines. There were stair machines and exercise bikes. These were well designed because they were not in the same position within each 2x2 block, so it was possible to use the alignment as a clue to assemble the pieces. However, I didn't actually know what the exercise machines looked like since I didn't check the box before I started. I also started noticing that there were a lot of pieces with orange traffic cones on them, so I pulled those out to my right. The key to this stage of the puzzle is understanding that the entire image is made up of individual 2x2 blocks, and that you have to use the text, image, and background even on each block to figure out where the blocks go in relation to each other. So that took a while, and now the next step was to complete all the people. This part was more tricky because the image was designed carefully such that the cut of the line actually often fell where the clothing changed place from a t-shirt to pants, from a leotard to leggings, etc. There were a lot of people wearing identically colored clothing combinations. And with 9 times 13 or 117 different blocks, that was a lot of people to try and keep track of. So you can see I'm starting to make these L-shaped blocks. For example, where 2 pieces are the exercise mat and the third is the top of the person. The 4th piece will have text on it that will eventually help place the block in the larger grid. I did get lucky and I have a few 2x2 blocks already assembled on the left side. Anyway, it takes me a while to get all 117 of these people assembled, so let's skip ahead. The last thing to do in the stage was the word pieces. I pulled them out and oriented them based on whether the knobs were going left or right, or up and down. That helped me narrow down which block they might go into based on which piece was still missing. It was simply a matter of reading the word fragments and trying to match them up. But it still took me a little while because, again, there are over 100 of them, so let's jump. Now that the blocks are complete, here comes the fun part: reading every single block and solving the logic puzzle. I started off by finding pairs where one person will be asking a question and the other person will be responding with the most likely answer. For example, one person asked, "What does the instructor have that I don't have?" And the other person responded, "3 boyfriends." I also liked it very much that you can confirm when you have a pair correct because the speakers will be looking at each other. Sometimes they will be looking left and right, sometimes up and down. And that also told you how to relatively position them. I also noticed that on some blocks there was a grid or column designation, or sometimes both, that will help you position the block directly in the grid. There were actually a couple of blocks with desks and signs on them that read pool and hot tub to the left, aerobic C7 through G13 to the right. So I decided to make use of that information and assemble the pool, hot tub, those desks, and the rest of the edges so that I could get the grid locations. Again, all the edge pieces fit with each other, but they were very well designed and had overlapping elements between every pair of edge pieces, so assembling it was just a matter of observation. The only exception were the row markers on the right side of the edge. But from building the bottom edge, I knew that the pool was at the bottom, so the desks were at the bottom too, including the aerobics from C to G. So I figured that the rows ran from A to G from top to bottom. And I was right. So I figured that aerobics probably referred to all the blocks with the green mats. And this section turned out to be pretty easy to do. Surprisingly, I had a lot more trouble with the exercise machines. I managed to pair up most of them, but I couldn't figure out which column each one went into because not all of them were labeled. In fact, I had to leave some of them to the end because it was completely ambiguous. In fact, the only way I was able to place the last few pieces of those at the end was when I noticed the background texture had it ever so slightly slant, so that there was a tiny bit of difference from left to right. Next, I placed the weights, which were mostly labeled, so it was pretty fast. The last section was the runners, and this was interesting because there was distance markings in many of the blocks. However, they were in archaic measurements, like fathoms and furlongs and rods, so I needed to research all of them. I had to compare distances such as 85 rods, 2.1 furlongs, 312 feet, 270 fathoms. I really should have written these down. Finally, for these last sections, I started examining them very closely in case I missed a hidden numeral somewhere. I even pulled out my phone to use as a magnifying glass. And eventually, I was done. Alright, moment of truth. Let's check out the back. Perfect! So there you have it, the fitness center. If you're interested in seeing me do the other puzzles in the series in the future, or review other interesting puzzles, make sure you subscribe. Until then, happy puzzling!